Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we get the pleasure of beginning our quest to check out all of the 2024 Collect Day releases. It's always an exciting time when we start to get figures from the upcoming year, again, all the brand new releases from different companies, and of course, Collect Day is one of the companies I look forward to the most, and this time, we've got ourselves a Dreadnoughtus, and that is awesome because there really aren't any Dreadnoughtus models out that I can recall outside of the Mattel version, and that is just a ridiculously huge figure and not exactly the same type of model that we see here, but it looks really, really good. That is for sure. They definitely did a great job on the sculpt. I will say, for some reason in my head, I thought that this was a larger scale because here in hand it's actually 1/100th scale, and even though Everything Dinosaur had announced that, I for some reason just kind of glanced over that and I was expecting this to be a little bit bigger. Not that it's small. You can see once I bring my hands in here, you know, it's still a pretty decently sized figure for sure, but it's just a little bit smaller than I was expecting. But again, they definitely did a great job from what we can see so far, but as always, the only way to truly tell is with a closer look, so let's go ahead and jump straight to it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Dreadnoughtus, you can see that head sculpt definitely looks quite nice. We've got the mouth sculpted in an open position. We can see the teeth in there, and even though those teeth are ultra small, that you can actually see them, and they are painted pretty nicely. There might be a little sloppiness. Yeah, definitely a little sloppiness right there. But for the most part, I think they're painted pretty nicely for how incredibly tiny they are. If you get nice and close, you can actually see again how nicely sculpted the teeth are in there. We do have the nostrils up here, and there is some variation of color as we have kind of a lighter green here, and it almost looks like we transition to a slightly darker green down. It's a little hard to truly tell, but it kind of looks like there might be a little variation of color there. They've also added a dark wash to the figure, and you can kind of see that here coming into play in the face of the dinosaur as well. We can see the eyes are painted with a black, nothing more than a black, but they're super tiny. You can see the head there behind my finger, definitely small. So, you know, nicely placed and nicely painted for the size of the eyes. As you move down, you've got a little bit of wrinkling there, increasing back behind the mouth, of course, because the mouth is opening, so it would probably wrinkle up the skin a little bit. You can see a little bit more creasing here in the underside of the throat as well. Considering the dinosaur's kind of leaning forward, I would expect to see that also. And then as you move down through the neck, there is again a good bit of nice looking skin detail, which again is exactly what you would hope to see. And of course, as we move down, you can see the dinosaur's neck is going to increase in size as we continue to head toward the body. And obviously, when it comes to a Dreadnoughtus, you're going to have a pretty big neck, and you can absolutely see that is a pretty massive neck here on our sauropod. We also have a nice light green here for the underside, which is pretty cool looking. It also has a nice smooth transition to that green from the darker green, so that's also a good thing. And if you look here at the underside, you can see the throat sculpted out, as well as, again, some skin texture down here, which also looks really good. And then as we move down, again, back toward the body, not only do we see the neck increase in size, but we also see some osteoderms pick up here on the back of the dinosaur, as well as a little bit of creasing right here. But you can see, again, some osteoderms beginning to pick up here, and they are painted out with what appears to be like a grayish tone, but it almost has like a slight brownish tint to it as well. But you'll definitely be able to take notice to the dark wash. Again, as you move through the course of the figure, it's not quite as obvious, I would say, as some other figures that might include a dark wash, but it is definitely there. I think if you look at it from up above, you can really see that dark wash that's applied to it. But as you move down, you've got a few more creases and stuff right here at the bottom of the neck as you lead into the body. You can also see some tensing here to the front leg because, of course, the dinosaur is supporting some weight right there as this leg looks to be picking up off of the ground to take a step. So this leg is really tensed because, you know, it's a pretty big dinosaur. That's a lot of weight to be putting on that leg, especially when it comes to the front half of our Dreadnoughtus. You can also see some more of those osteoderms picking up here as you move down into the leg briefly, and they as well are painted out. And then as you move down into the foot sculpt looks really good. If my camera would focus on it, there we go. You can still see that dark wash present down there. The toes are sculpted nicely, and then again we have the nail coming out of the side of the foot right there. As you move back up into the stomach, stomach region, you can see some nice looking skin texture, of course, in the stomach, as well as a little bit of girth to the dinosaur. It's definitely a well-fed Dreadnoughtus. You can see the skin stretching off of the stomach as that leg takes a step forward, so you can see the skin again stretching right there, as well as wrinkling, because this leg is pushing into the stomach a little bit, so it would be wrinkling that skin up right there. We continue to have that light green tone here for the underside of the dinosaur, and again, a pretty smooth transition up into the darker greens of the stomach. You can make out the hip bone as well a little bit there. As you move down into the rear leg, you can see the muscle definition is present, as well as the kneecap and the calf muscle a little bit there. And you lead down into the foot sculpt, you can see the nails are again painted with that grayish tone. And then as you move back up, you can see some of those osteoderms kind of turn into ridges here moving along the back of the dinosaur. And I like how there's kind of like imperfections to them, because this one you can very clearly see comes to a nice point, whereas this one is almost a little rounded off. So I feel like that is a nice little thing to add to the model. I think it's a nice little dose of realism to make them a little bit imperfect, and something that Collecta often does with like different dinosaurs. They'll just give them little tiny details and stuff that I'm usually a big fan of. You can see the skin stretching off of the tail again as that leg leads forward, and then as you lead out, the osteoderms and ridges and stuff start to taper away, and then we've got a nice looking tail sculpt. You've got a curve to the tail that also looks pretty good, and again it kind of curves out and then down also toward the dinosaur's right, and you also have a striping effect as you lead out through the course of the tail with a darker green. And then as you turn the dinosaur around, one thing you'll take notice too is that the head and neck turns toward the dinosaur's left, a nice slight turn, just adding a little bit more life to the figure. As you move down through the course of the neck, again, everything's going to look pretty much the same over here as it did on the first side. You're really not going to see much when it comes to a difference over here compared to the initial side, because the neck and the turn in the neck isn't that drastic. As you move down into the body, I think, of course, the biggest difference we'll see on this side would be the positioning of the legs. You can see that the front leg is trailing, as is the rear leg on this side, and obviously this leg is currently in the process of picking up to take a step, which is why we see the tensing so massively in the opposing leg. But you can see again that the detailing looks pretty good over here, and I also like the fact that you don't see so much tensing or muscle tone over here as the dinosaur is just kind of relaxing the leg as it takes a step. And again, we've got the foot sculpt down there, the nails sculpted out and everything. A little hard to see because my camera for some reason doesn't like the focus on it, but you've got some wrinkling and everything there in the stomach, again showing off the positioning of the legs. The muscle definition on the rear leg is nicely displayed as well, and you can see tensing especially up there in the thigh area, and then of course we lead out into the tail. So overall, it is such a nice model, and it is also awesome to finally have a really good Dreadnoughtus to add to our collections. As far as a size goes, for a length from the head to the tail, you were looking at about 14 3/4 inches, or right around 37.5, closing in on 38 centimeters. And then for a height, about 9 1/4 inches, maybe a little under, or right around 23, maybe a little over 23 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collecta human being next to our Collecta Dreadnoughtus. And you can see again, even at the smaller size compared to what I thought it would be, it still does sport a pretty darn big size. Definitely way taller than everything that we have here, but being a Dreadnoughtus, I'd be pretty shocked if it were not. We've also got the Collecta Deluxe Dimetrodon, one that I often use for size comparisons, so I felt like that one would be a pretty fun one to bring in here next to our Dreadnoughtus. And then a few sauropod comparisons as far as Collecta sauropods go. We have the Amargasaurus from Collecta, a deluxe model here next to our brand new Dreadnoughtus. We've also got the Ampulosaurus from Collecta, which obviously is way smaller than the Dreadnoughtus, as well as the incredible Mamenchisaurus from Collecta that was released a few years back. And you can see that, again, the Mamenchisaurus is definitely quite a bit larger than the Dreadnoughtus, but it's not massively larger. It's definitely bigger, but the Dreadnoughtus isn't too far behind. And then a comparison that is very fun, because we have the Collecta Hadrosaurus next to the Collecta Dreadnoughtus. And what's humorous about this, and it's something that many people have pointed out since the Dreadnoughtus was revealed, you can see that these two figures share the same paint scheme. We also have like that same variation of green for the primary body color. We've got the same green as far as the striping on the back of the tail, as well as the same light green for the underside. A little bit of difference here and there, but pretty similar when it comes to the coloration overall. We also have the deluxe Dino Kairos from Collecta for another comparison, as well as their Saurophaganax, because again, I'm just pretty much going with some randoms here to try to help give you an idea of the size. We also have the Boreala Pelta from Collecta, another awesome Collecta release. And then a fan favorite from over the last few years, we have the Smock here next to our Dreadnoughtus for one final comparison. So this brand new 2024 Collecta Dreadnoughtus, the 1/100th scale Dreadnoughtus, is absolutely awesome, honestly. It's a beautiful looking figure. They really did a great job on the sculpt of this. The fine detail looks really nice. You've got all the type of skin detail you'd like to see with, the skin stretching and wrinkling and stuff, depending on where the movement is shown. It's exactly as it should be, I think. And on top of that, we've got a nice naturalistic pose, nothing that's overly strange or overly dramatic. We've just got a nice natural pose with the dinosaur kind of just walking along, maybe even just taking a step forward, potentially to grab something to eat from a tree. And I think that also looks really good. We also have a paint application here that looks fairly reminiscent to the Hadrosaurus that they had released, but does still look really good on the figure itself. I would say that it looks nice and natural. Again, green isn't always something that for some reason in my head works well with sauropods. In my brain, it's always like grays or browns and stuff like that, but green does actually look quite nice on sauropods as well, and this is definitive proof of that, because I think even though it's not the flashiest coloration, which I wouldn't really expect to see on a sauropod, it looks good, and Collecta has done a good job of applying it to the figure here. Again, as far as like the transitioning goes, and also including that dark wash, I really do like the dark wash, and all the scoots and stuff moving along the back are also really nicely painted. Again, they're pretty small, so you've actually got quite a few areas of small paint jobs here with the teeth and the eyes. There is a little sloppiness with the mouth and the teeth, but it's just like one tiny little spot that I think they might have accidentally tapped with the brush and then probably didn't notice it or whatever. But it is still a really nice looking sculpt, really nice looking paint job as a whole, and an awesome addition to my Collecta collection. So if you are interested in picking this one up, this will be available early in 2024 on Everything Dinosaur. So at this point, it's probably just a matter of time before this one does hit Everything Dinosaur. So make sure you follow them, and you can stay up to date on when they are actually receiving stock on their site, and you can pick this beautiful figure up for yourself. So make sure you do all that, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.